Okay, it's time for another completely unscripted Apple product unboxing, and this time it's the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Okay guys, it's Friday the 20th of September, and just like everyone else, I've had to wait for my iPhone delivery today. In fact, there's been lots of deliveries. There's been 2 iPhones, AirPods Max, AirPods 4, what else? An Apple Watch Series 10. So there's loads of content on the way. If you don't want to miss any of that, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell. But today is all about the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which, yes, I'm switching back to. I'm going back to the iPhone. If you've only just found this channel, it's worth a very, very quick bit of history on what's happened over the last 12 months. So I started it using the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I've been an iPhone user for well over 10 years. I'm an Apple guy. Yeah, if you look back at my videos, they're mainly Apple. They're not mainly Apple. There's a lot of Apple videos in there. I'm an Apple fanboy. So the iPhone has always been my default choice. However, I then reviewed the Samsung S24 Ultra and fell in love with it immediately and kept calling it the best smartphone I've ever used. And when I said that, I thought, I need to put my money where my mouth is, basically, and switch to it. So I did. I switched to this full time back in February, I think it was, and loved it. Didn't really miss the iPhone apart from the ecosystem stuff, to be completely honest. So that became my main phone for quite a while. Then, completely randomly, not that randomly, I switched to the Samsung Z Fold 6, which is this great big, obviously foldable phone. That has been my phone for the last 2 months. And again, I've not really missed the iPhone at all. In fact, I've loved that massive display. It's been a real productivity booster. There's lots of problems with this phone. The front display is a bit too narrow, although it's nice to be one-handed, and the camera system is not up to scratch. Unfortunately, that does not cut the mustard in terms of the price of this, and when you compare it against the likes of the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So it's back to the iPhone, and I know this might annoy a few people because I made a big thing about switching, and there's this whole thing about, you know, iPhone user switches to whatever. I just don't care. Anyway, on to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Let's unbox this thing. This is not a full review, guys, because I haven't got time to do that, but there will be a full review and some other videos about this, some comparisons and stuff coming up soon, so remember to hit that button if you haven't done already. This is just a completely off-the-cuff, brilliant off-the-cuff video, so you're going to get my raw thoughts on this. And also I've got a thing I'm going to do with this at the end of this video, which I think might be quite interesting, based on some feedback I've heard from someone who's used this phone already. So that should be interesting. Hold on for that. Very noisy road outside the studio, excuse that. Okay, I'm doing a terrible job of this unboxing. Whoa, okay, so it's the wrong way around. Good start. I was very unsure about which colour to go for. I was kind of going between the desert titanium and, is it desert sand, whatever it is, that deserty colour basically, and the white version. I went for the white version because I love white tech, and you know what? I'm really glad I did. This looks utterly lovely already. I'd forgotten how lovely iPhones are. They are. Look at that. I seem to remember them saying that this is a whiter version. But it's still titanium, so we don't get any, it's not a different material. They've stuck with titanium, which makes a lot of sense. It looks exactly like, from the back anyway, exactly like the iPhone 15 Pro Max. That one's in natural titanium. They look like the same phone from that angle. There are differences, which obviously we'll come on to in a moment, but let's do the peel of the screen protector. Here we go. Still enjoyable and unnerving, because that is the most perfect that screen is ever going to look. I will put a protector on it at some point. Okay, let's come back to that in a second. In the box we also get the SIM card tray tool thing, great, and a USB-C to USB-C cable. Obviously all iPhones now are USB-C, and the cables are lovely as well. These aren't color coded. I can guarantee if you get the black iPhone 15 Pro Max, it won't have a black. I don't think so anyway. If it has, let me know. But it's a very nice braided cable. So again, big fan of that, Apple. Thank you very much. That is the unboxing experience, to be honest, because the rest of it is just those. There's no stickers, no Apple stickers. Why don't we get those anymore, Tim? But the rest of it is just these bits of paper that no one reads ever. They could say anything, couldn't they? Okay, so first impressions of the iPhone 16 Pro Max itself. Like I say, it looks identical to the iPhone 15 Pro Max because it pretty much is. Well, there's one. Is it just one difference? I have to remind myself of this. Yeah, there's just one difference physically, which is this. And this, let me just show you in that camera over there as well, is the camera control, not the camera button. It's not a button. Apple have been very careful to say that. However, it is a button because it clicks. It's definitely a button. It's not haptic. It's not that clever magical haptic thing where you think you're pressing something but you're not. It is a button, but it's called the camera control, so we have to call it that. iPhones are still beautiful. I test a lot of phones for this job, and I've said this recently that most phones these days feel great, they look great, and they all look a bit different, but they're all pretty well made. As soon as you get an iPhone in your hands, you remember that the iPhone is still just a notch above the rest, even the likes of the S24 Ultra. This is top-end Samsung stuff, to be honest, but even that, is it? Oh, maybe it's the same, I don't know. Anyway, it feels very, and it looks very expensive. It just looks identical to the phone that it replaces, apart from that camera control. Right, let's turn it on. The next thing to talk about is the display, because it's bigger slightly. The bezels are smaller. I think the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the big. It must be the biggest iPhone display Apple has ever made. I can't tell that at the moment because all I can see is the Apple logo. Go, 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 go. Okay, so now we now have the full display there. I mean, I've not used the iPhone for so long now, so it's tricky to tell, although you can tell immediately that this is that these bezels are very small. Can you see there? Very, very, very small bezels. It looks like a very big, expansive display. That said, I have come from the narrow display on the Z Fold 6. Okay, what I'm going to do now is get this set up very quickly so I can talk a bit more about it and then try the thing that I'm really looking forward to. Okay, done. That took forever. I think Apple's servers are being absolutely hammered today because everyone's getting their new iPhones. But we're in. But we do have the iPhone kind of set up. I've logged in with my Apple ID and that's pretty much all I've done. But it does mean I can look at the screen again, and I've also just realised I'm wearing glasses all of a sudden. Awesome. Let's sort out the continuity. So, just a very quick bit of buying guidance. If you have the iPhone 15 Pro Max, don't bother. I don't really think anyone is thinking about making that upgrade. If you have the iPhone 14 Pro Max, again, unless it's falling to bits, don't bother. I think that the bigger decision people might be making at the moment, if you haven't already pre-ordered and you haven't got your iPhone 16 Pro Max already, is whether to go for the iPhone 16 or the iPhone 16 Pro or Pro Max. Because the iPhone 16, and I do have one, it's over there in the box. I will be doing a mini review of that fairly soon, so again, make sure you hit that button not to miss that one. But I think the iPhone 16 is a very... something popped up on the screen then, just some sort of message. I just clicked OK. No idea what I've just agreed to there. Brilliant. The perils of doing an unscripted unboxing. Anyway, I think the iPhone 16 is a very tempting proposition because it's a very competent phone. There are some problems with it. There's a few problems, like, for instance, a 60 Hz refresh rate in 2024 when every other phone has a 120 Hz variable refresh rate, but we'll forget about that for now. But I think that, making that decision between the regular iPhone 16 or the 16 Plus and the Pro or the Pro Max isn't very easy. I'm also going to take this ring off because it scratches everything. To help with that, I've made a list of the things that you get with the iPhone 16 Pro Max that you don't get with the iPhone 16. So the first thing, well, firstly, the camera control, that not a button thing there, you get that on the iPhone 16 as well, and you get the action button, which is a customizable button. It is a button up here. I love the fact that both of those things they're standard now across the iPhone 16 range. They haven't made those Pro only, so that's good. So yeah, the camera control, if you want that, you can get that with the iPhone 16. The stuff that you don't get with the iPhone 16 that you do get with this, you get slightly bigger displays on both the Pro and the Pro Max. You get the always on display, so as you can see there, you don't get that on the iPhone 16. You get the 5x telephoto zoom, the proper optical 5x zoom on this camera system. You do not get that on the iPhone 16. For me, that's the biggest thing. I love 5x. 5x optical has been one of the most enjoyable ways to take photos that I've experienced over the last year or so. So losing that would be a big deal for me. You get an ultra wide on the iPhone 16, but you don't get the 48 megapixel ultra wide, which is what is on here. Again, you get macro on the iPhone 16, but it's not 48 megapixel. So if that bothers you, then that's something to bear in mind as well. You don't get the LiDAR scanner. So the LiDAR scanner, which is on the back here, that apparently gives more accurate portrait shots, and you can use it for 3D scanning of rooms and stuff for, AR experiences. So again, if that's something that bothers you, then the Pro or the Pro Max is for you. The optical image stabilization in the camera system on the Pro and the Pro Max is better. It's got a True Tone flash as well. Got the night mode portrait capability, which I don't think you get on the regular iPhone 16. And then you get Pro RAW, Pro Res, log, all the very kind of pro shooting features on this for the camera system that you don't get on the iPhone 16. There's also studio quality mics in this that you don't get in the iPhone 16. I'll come on to that in a bit. And you can shoot Dolby 4K 120 Hertz video on this, which you can't do on the iPhone 16. That's that super slow-mo capable frame rate at 4K Dolby. So you don't get that either. And also you get faster data transfer speeds on this via USB-C compared to the iPhone 16. So basically this is a pro, obviously because of the name, it's very much a pro phone, and I think Apple has got that right. I think they've picked just the right pro features to separate this from the regular iPhone 16, because the iPhone 16 doesn't have the fancy stuff that most people don't care about. I include myself in that. The only thing I don't include myself in is the 5X. 5X optical, super important. But the rest of that stuff, I've never shot anything in ProRes. I've just listed all that stuff there. If you've heard that and thought, don't care about any of that, just get the iPhone 16. Wait for my review of it, obviously, which will come next week, but get the iPhone 16 because it's a really good phone. But the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I can't test the camera feature yet because I can't test the camera at all yet because I don't have the time, but that will come in the next video. However, I do want to try this camera control button. I've not done this yet. This is completely new for me. Let's give it a go. I think all you do is press the button. Okay, and that takes me into the camera as you would expect, so that's good. The first thing to try is, well, let's just take a photo. There you go, there's a sample photo for you. We'll put that on the screen now. The other thing I can do on this is, if I rub my finger on it, no, that does nothing. Do you kind of gently press it? Okay, so you gently press it, and when you do that, you get a bit of haptic feedback. So how do I get rid of it? What if I want to get rid of that bit? That's a bit annoying. So you put your finger on it and then you gently give it a little squeeze, just a little one, and you get a haptic feedback thing, and then it pops up with the zoom for starters. And I can move my finger along like that, and it zooms in. That's very responsive. That's really, really responsive. And you can kind of go all the way to 25x if you want, and all the way back out to 0.5. And then when you've zoomed in nicely, let's get another photo for you. This will be quite low light, so it would be interesting. Let's take a photo of, I don't know, that bag. Let's see what happens. So I automatically went for the regular button on the screen. I'm so used to that. I think we're all used to that. So I think this camera control thing will take a little bit of getting used to. Okay, but I think you can get other controls. How do you get the other controls? You press on the screen and then it gives you the other thing. Okay, fine. So this is how the camera control works. I should be working for Apple. I'm so good at demonstrating this stuff. So you basically, little press, it brings up the zoom. If you then tap on the screen, that disappears up. In fact, it gives you a few seconds and then it goes. But if you then press that on the screen, you then get the other controls, which you can either use your finger like that to go between, or obviously you can move your finger along the camera control to choose the different stuff. So we have exposure, we have depth, obviously aperture, zoom, which is what it starts with, cameras, styles, tone. So there's lots of stuff that you can flick between. I guess if I go for cameras, what happens then? I want to choose that thing on that menu, but then when I press the camera control, it takes the photo. Feels a little bit fiddly at the minute. The thing that you can't do with this yet, and I can't quite get my head around this. Part of the idea with this button is that it acts like a camera shutter button. Like, so on this camera here, for instance, if I want to take a photo with it, you have what's called a half press. So you frame up your shot and then you half press the button and it locks focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on. You then fully press the button and it takes the photo. Apple has done the same thing with the camera control button. So basically, I think the idea is that you kind of press and hold or something to lock on focus, and then you fully press and take the photo. Now, during the event last week or whenever it was, they said that's coming soon. Can't work out why that isn't just there now. It's a really weird feature to be holding back. But yeah, the camera control thing, these complete first impressions this is of. I've never used this before. It just feels a bit, it's very responsive, very, very responsive. Will I get used to using it? That's the key thing. There's one more thing I want to talk about on this first impressions video, and it's the thing that I'm most excited about, believe it or not. I spoke to someone who's had the iPhone 16 Pro Max since, before the embargo, so he's been using it for a while. And he said the most surprising thing, in a good way, was the mics, these studio quality mics, and he was blown away by them. And this guy knows his stuff, he knows his audio. So when he said that, I thought, okay, I'm interested now, because I do a fair amount of filming on my phones for the channel and obviously for Instagram and all that sort of stuff. So the idea that this could potentially really raise the game in terms of audio is very exciting. So let's give it a test. Let's switch to the iPhone 16 Pro Max for the rest of this video and see what it's like. Okay, we're on the iPhone 16 Pro Max now, and everything you can hear and see, apart from the shots of the phone from the other cameras, is coming from the phone. I've changed it to 4K 24 frames per second. This is the front-facing camera as well, it's not the rear camera. I do have a great big key light in front of me, so it should look fairly good based on the lighting that I've got in here. So it's not the best test in terms of normal everyday use, but it's not so much the video quality that I'm bothered about, it's the audio quality, and we haven't touched this. This is straight out of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. These are the studio quality mics that Apple is touting in this phone, and I haven't heard them yet. Obviously, I'll hear them once we've edited the video and put it out there, but I'd love to know what you think. Get involved in the comments. Does this sound good? If you do any kind of content production or voiceover work, or I don't know, even music, if you record yourself singing, etc., could you use these mics in that setting professionally? Let me know in the comments. The only thing left to talk about very quickly is Apple Intelligence. And it is going to be very quick because it's not on this phone yet. I'm in the UK as well, which means I won't get it until December. We're not getting Apple Intelligence in the UK until December. I think it's arriving earlier in the US, I think, but it's not here yet, and it's a bit frustrating, I'll be honest, when these phones are being labeled as Apple Intelligence compatible. This one, obviously the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 16s, both of those models, they're being sold as Apple Intelligence phones, and we can't use it yet. It's annoying. We need a better Siri, and we need to try out Apple Intelligence. I know people have been trying it out on the betas, but I've not done that. I'm waiting. I want to be surprised and delighted by this thing. Yeah, that's the one elephant in the room that I can't talk about in this video. But in summary, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is a beautiful device, because of course it is. It's got a bigger display, 100%, no question about it. I think the Pro features that Apple has put into this and not included in the regular iPhone 16 make total sense. I think you can identify if you're a Pro/Pro Max customer or just a regular iPhone 16 customer. The studio mics, who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments. Apple Intelligence, stay tuned. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. It has been very off the cuff. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, give it a quick thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done already. I'll leave a link at the end of this video to another video that I think you might find interesting. But there's lots more Apple content on the horizon, so stay tuned.